Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a very cool sort of game-like experience that I'm not going to go so far as to call a game necessarily, but we're going to be checking out something called Nested by developer Orteil, and this is very simply, and this is kind of a rough thing to just encapsulate in one statement, but it's sort of like a hierarchy of all the things that exist that we can browse. It's not so much a simulation of anything, but it sort of lets you see compartmentally and categorically all the things that you might, well, that we're aware of at least, from the top to the bottom, and you can sort through them, and it's very cool. So, you'll see we're presented with a very rudimentary interface. There's almost nothing to do aside from this one menu item here on the left that says, there's a little plus, and it says universe, and you could sort of think of this as if you were sort of browsing like the browser windows within Windows Explorer or something, trying to like scope through a drive or something, or a set of folders. So we're going to click this. That reveals a pile of galactic superclusters, and I can choose any one of these if I want. Within that, a pile of galaxies. Within that, a galactic center and a bunch of arms. Within that, a star system and a bunch of, or a black hole and a bunch of star systems. Within that, a bunch of different types of planets, including like an asteroid belt. Oh, that one has life. There's a Mugoth, a Shabzokbler, I don't know how to read that. Kraylon, a Ludrosh, OG Schubler, I don't know even how to read any of these words. We'll pick that one. The Shenin Kadler, which has thoughts and a body. And those are its thoughts. I can't really pronounce those. And its body has a shell, a mouth, an eye, and a fuzzy pseudolimb. So we can learn about this creature just by revealing its parts. And then within the eye, there's eyelashes and an eyeball. I guess technically there's probably a lot more parts to this creature than just its shell, its mouth, its eye, and its fuzzy pseudolimb. There's probably like skin and various organs and stuff. But I guess we could sort of break those down. Maybe within the shell has some of that. Shell has chitin. Within the chitin, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. We can break down the nitrogen to protons, quarks, neutrons, electrons. So you can see it's a pretty granular thing, and you get very far down into it. So the cool thing that I think it makes this premise very interesting, and what I think makes this a cool concept, beyond just the fact that this is incredibly ambitious to even undertake something like this, is the fact that you can sort of reveal a pseudo story about these things based on what you choose to click through or where you happen to go. So if we went to a telluric planet, for example, there are all sorts of continents here, and then within the continents we can choose countries. Within the countries, we've got regions. Within the regions, we've got cities and villages. Within the villages, we've got a residential area, commercial area, police station, a farm, a chocolate factory. That's kind of cool. We found a chocolate factory. Richard Long. Bonnie Hall, Rebecca Martin, Philip Carter. So there's all these individual persons, actually, that are sort of modeled in a way. I mean, in a very conceptual way. They're not concretely here. We can look in their cables to find plastic and wire. We can see that the plastic's made up of polymers. So in a way, it's almost a little bit educational in that you might actually be informed as to what some of these materials might be by breaking them down. And it might teach you a little bit about chemical compositions if you are to look at it in that direction, and probably most people wouldn't. But I think it's really neat how you could take these concepts and go from such a macro to such a micro and have this all available in this sort of like a user interface. I mean, granted, Spore has tried to do this visually, but I think this is just like a really cool way to take it and kind of turn it on its head and let you really approach this in a much more granular way. I mean, how unpretentious is zooming through the entire universe in this hierarchy like this? Like, there's nothing about this that isn't just easy to see, right? So there's not really anything you have to learn. There's nothing about this that requires much thought. You just go where you want to go and see what you want to see. And if you want to make up a story about it as you go along, that is entirely up to you to do that. We can go into a farm. We revealed a cozy yellow house, an old house, a gloomy house, Jennifer McWilson, the farmer, a rye field, an oat field, a horse, a duck, a grain silo. Yeah, well, you can read all those. The horse has a body. The body's made up of head, fur, leg, tail, flesh. And so within the leg, we've got fur, skin, blood vessels, bones, fat, muscles. So some of these are a little bit more well-modeled than others. Within the fat, there's lipids. Within the lipids, there's atoms. Within the atoms, there's protons. And then we get down to quarks again. So something really cool happens when we get down to beyond quarks. We find that there's a quubble. And within the quubble, we've got an upperverse and an estraverse. And then if we go to the upperverse, you'll find the entire universe begins again, which is a really kind of like blows your mind type of concept if you've never thought of it before. And it's a thing that's crossed my mind on a number of occasions. Like, how weird is that? That the further down we get, maybe the bigger things get. Everything is sort of like a Mobius strip. That's probably not the right way to describe it, but like everything ties back into itself. And the smaller is bigger, and the bigger is smaller, and it never ends. It's like one of those pictures that keeps zooming into a part of the picture that just reveals that it's that again. It's a fractal, essentially. The smaller you go, the bigger it gets, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. But it's a really cool concept, and it's kind of a neat way to illustrate that concept in a way that might be a little bit unexpected for someone that may have never thought about that level of, philosophy or modeling of the galaxy. Well, I mean, I guess it's sort of like philosophical science at that point, right? Because we don't really have any knowledge of things on that level. But hopefully one day we will. We continue on the path that we're on anyway. But this is not a platform for me to go off on science stuff. I just wanted to say it because I think it's a really cool idea. And I really like the interface of it. And also I should mention, when you go to the top again, you can see it's actually a number of different like CSS layouts that you can use for this if you want to look at it in a number of different ways. So we've got this regular one. This is the standard default look. Then we've got this blue one. It's maybe a little bit easier on the eyes for some. Actually, this green one's even nicer. It's a little bit more serious, though. And then we've got this tan one, actually maybe a little bit more orangish brown. That's more tan. And then the one I was actually on, which I kind of like these little circles instead of everything being so squared off. Then we've got a dark one, for night viewing. Makes it a little less difficult on the eyes. And then, of course, gotta have one of space, right? Because that's sort of where we're at this point. Reminds me a little bit of Cookie Clicker, the way the background looks. But I think this is a really cool concept. I hope you guys are pretty excited about it, too. I would love to see what kind of practical implications that I don't know if I would go so far as to call this an engine, but this concept could be host to many other departures. Now that we've got sort of like a skeleton for what could follow through all of these different, I don't even know, layers, hierarchies, or strata of existence, maybe we could have things go off in such a strange direction as maybe we start to build stories in a very literal sense from the path you take. Maybe the choices you make and the forks that you choose could actually lead to some sort of procedural story creation, and maybe the people that you happen to find are now, given personalities and imbued with some sort of characteristics or attributes, and there's all sorts of ideas in how these things could interact in different ways and parts, and the fact that they're all modeled here, sort of like scribble knots or something, it just sort of opens up a world of possibilities. At least that's what I see anyway. So I guess with that, we will wrap things up. It's sort of a shorter episode, yes, but I'm not sure how much there is to explore here, especially since you guys can do the exploration on your own. In this case, totally free game, browser-based. Link's going to be in the description, so I would urge you, go ahead and do a little bit of browsing and see what you can find on some of these continents and hilly lands and jungles and life. And, oh, look at all the life that we found here. There's a golden toad. What are the golden toad's thoughts? Why, frog, do that? Well, yeah, frogs are pretty silly like that. So I would urge you to go take a look, see what you can find. I think there's probably a lot of things that might surprise you, and some kind of charming humor that I think might lay nested deep within all of these hierarchies. Hey, hey, food please. That's what the ant says. Also reminds me a little bit of like a text-based Katamari Damacy in a weird way, if that makes any sense at all. I hope it does. But I think this is a really cool concept if I haven't said that enough times, so go check it out. Links in the description, totally free. And while you're in the description, feel free to go ahead and look through some of my other social media links, things like my Facebook page, my Twitter, maybe even indie-impressions.com if you want to stop by over there. Over 500 other games that I've covered in the series. You can feel free to browse through, see if there's anything that catches your interest. I've got all the different videos sorted and categorized, so if you're looking for a particular type of game, specific genre, or maybe a payment style or platform, maybe you want to browse all the free games, or all the browser games, or all the Steam games that I've covered, or even the Greenlight games or the LD games, those are all tagged as well. So head on by, see what you can find. Let me know what your thoughts are on this game. I'd love to hear what you think the concept does for you, where you might want to take this in a different direction, or where you think it's cool just the way it is. And in general, if you want to leave any support, I always appreciate that as well. So thank you for hanging out again, as always. I hope you'll come back again tomorrow. New episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day without fail, so I will catch you here roughly the same time, but definitely the same place. And I hope you have a lovely night, guys. Talk to you tomorrow. Later.